I'm in Max.
You are listening to Happy Jack's RPG Podcast.
I'm in Max.
Pursuing the RPG hobby with reckless abandon.
Why, hello.
Hello.
Coming to you from Pasadena, California, where we are in police-prescribed lockdown mode.
Which is actually true.
There's a bad man wandering around, so they told us to lock all the doors and windows.
Mm-hmm. And don't go outside.
And don't go outside. And have dogs.
Yeah.
It's okay that we have wine.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're gamers. We don't go outside.
No.
Except for fair.
Thank you for joining us for Season 24, Episode 10 of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. My name is Stu.
My name is Kimmy.
I'm Tappy.
I'm Joey.
And Tappy's mic might be muted.
That's on. Hello.
Don't put it on your nipple. Put it in the middle.
Yeah. Nipple
My holder.
zone.
Put it on your third boob.
The all-seeing boob. In this episode of Happy Jacks, Andreas asks, do we need character advancement? Ryan from Rocket City sends his thoughts on our thoughts on D&D classes. And McWorm writes in about a 10-year-old murder hobo. But first,
I
if
know
you'd
some
like
of
to
those.
email us, and you should email us because
Yes.
we're getting light on emails again.
What?
happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. That's happyjacksrpg@gmail.com.
Yes.
We're on many social meteors. We have a forum, which is, I guess, is a form of social media.
Yeah.
I guess.
Whatever it is, you be there.
Sure.
You should be there.
happyjacksforum.com.
It's anti-social media.
Anti-social media.
Isn't that just books?
Police prescribed lockdowns.
Right?
Right.
Sudoku, isn't that anti-social media?
I think so. happyjacksforum.com for our forum. We're on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and MeWe. HappyJacksRPG, all one word. If you'd like to watch the show live, go to happyjacks.org/live at 7 p.m.-ish, especially today, Pacific time on Fridays, and you can hear us do our thing live.
Yep. Also, upcoming is JackerCon. So starting June 23rd, you can go to jackercon.com. JackerCon is our online fan-run Happy Jacks convention.
Yes.
So you can play games with us. You can play games with other Happy Jacks fans. It's free. You sign up and you can run games or play in games. There's people all over the world participating, so there's pretty much stuff in every time zone. And I'm going to use the same joke I've said every single time. You have to bring your own beer. That's the only thing. It's funny because it's from home. It's funny. Shut up. I hate you all.
Wongi Chewbacca.
I was doing Ed McMahon.
Oh, sorry. I get those two confused.
Ed McMahon of the Hut.
It's okay. I'll strangle you both. It'll be fine.
All right. Was there and also GameX is
Yes.
next weekend.
Yeah.
That's May
Was it
20
Later.
27th,
Yeah.
28th, 29th, or 28th?
Oh, I don't think
know.
it's that far in. I think it's May 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 4th, 25th, 26th, and 27th at the beautiful LAX Hilton Hotel in downtown LA over by the airport.
We're streaming a bunch of games. People are running games. I don't know if we have any spots. I mean, people were able to sign up. I think they might be full, but check. We also have a bunch of people who are running games at Games on Demand. So I know I'm running stuff down there. I'm running some of the stuff I've written at Games on Demand. Jason and Tomes are both running. Tomes runs all of Games on Demand. So there's lots of very cool things happening.
He is the Games on Demand god.
He is.
Get it? Because the acronym for Games on Demand.
That's good.
G-O-D.
That's funny.
So he's got.
He's God.
But you didn't laugh at Bring Your Own Beer? Like, I'm supposed to laugh at that, but you didn't laugh at Bring Your Own Beer?
I didn't expect you to laugh at it.
Oh, okay.
I explained it to make it lame.
It worked.
Everybody knows that jokes get better when you explain them.
Of course.
Yeah.
First rule of comedy.
Yeah.
No, second. First rule of comedy is timing.
Yeah. Third rule is rule of threes.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
right. Yeah.
Fourth rule is hear someone else say a funny joke, walk 10 feet, say it louder.
Exactly.
Thank you.
All right. Do we need character advancement from Andreas in Sweden, I assume? I think it's Sweden. S-E. Or Southeast. Hi, Stu and the crew.
Hello.
Or it could be Southern Estonia.
Possibly.
I hear it's lovely this time of year. Actually, I do. It's like I have a friend that's in
Estonia?
Estonia
I didn't know
right
people
now.
went to Estonia.
Well, I mean, you can.
You can. It's pretty.
Is it? Mm-hmm. No, wouldn't have any idea. They were a former Soviet state, right? They
Yeah,
were one of the-
probably.
Yeah.
I think they were.
Most of the Onias were.
Right. And Ias. Hi, Stu and the crew. A long while back, I sent in an email questioning the need for character advancement. As Erica successfully revisited an old topic, I thought this was also worth a retake. So, do we need character advancement? I suggest that many times the idea of continuous advancement is an artifact of class-based design. Traveler, when it first arrived, had no advancement system, as the characters were already developed and interesting. Fate has a very limited advancement system, where you mainly rewrite the character to adapt to experiences, and secondary add new abilities. Isn't the most interesting thing, after all, how the character you play acts in the light of experiences, not really cool abilities? And he misspelled cool intentionally.
Cool.
Yeah, it's cool that way with a K.
I suggest rewriting the character instead of piling on new stuff would suit many more games than Fate. If interesting things happen in the story continuously, do we need advancement? Cheers, Andreas in Southern
SE.
Ethiopia.
Estonia.
Or Estonia.
Yep.
Trying to think of other countries that start with an E. I think I've...
England?
Oh!
That's not.
No, that's
that's
Great
not a country.
Britain.
That's Great Britain. Yeah.
Well, now you're splitting hairs. Or foxes,
Ecuador?
or rabbits, or whatever
Right.
you want to call them.
Ecuador.
Oh, Ecuador. There you
Ecuador,
go.
there you go.
Is that it? Is that it?
No, there has to be more.
Yeah, I'm sure there's more. That's fine. That's not important.
So does anyone have any opinions on whether we need character advancement and the idea of rewriting your character and just having them change rather than become more powerful and have new feats or higher stats or more skills?
I mean, no.
I mean, I personally like character advancement.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. I think it's a way of pulling the story along, especially if you aren't doing necessarily story beats. If you are kind of just doing a typical D&D module dungeon crawl, it helps, make you feel like you're getting somewhere. And I think also it helps kind of follow the hero's journey arc, too, that your hero is learning things, they're growing, they're getting stronger at what they can do, so they can eventually take on the big, big bad. Otherwise, you're just kind of fighting rats in a basement for
Ever.
9 months.
That also really takes into account the idea that of D&D first level character. Like, there are a lot of games that don't start out that way, where you start out like Traveler or some other ones, where you start out as like a fully functional, like whatever it is that you are. And it depends on the kind of story you're telling, whether or not you need new abilities in order to go through that journey that makes you a three-dimensional character. So, like, if you're playing a Game of Thrones scale of game, well, yeah, you're going to advance because you have a 12-year-old girl who doesn't know how to shoot a bow turn into an assassin.
Right.
Well, you obviously have character advancement there, and that's more than just rewriting some things about this character.
Sure.
That's significant change and significant age increase. And so, like, that, absolutely. But if you're doing other ones that, especially if the game is paced kind of after, like, what a movie would be or something, you don't necessarily have to, especially if you already start out as fully fleshed out characters at the beginning, you don't have to get more abilities in order to go through that hero's journey.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'm sort of biased with this because I'm a teacher. So I like people getting better at things. I like people learning things. And I like part of it where it's like there's the change. I think you have to change. I don't necessarily think you need to, like, get more powerful necessarily, although I like that part. But, like, Traveler now, like, I love, like, you can study. That's what you do. You study up and, like, while you're traveling from system to system. I know. Stop looking at me. I know.
So, I love that. Like, your favorite thing about this game is that you get to study.
Well, like,
Well,
It's
you've
amazing.
got a week of downtime every time you make a
Right.
jump.
and
Which
you
is-
get to use that, and you can be like, I'm gonna learn this other language. Like, this is what you're gonna do if you're on a starship, and like that's all you got to do is.
Yeah.
Like, so I
Depends on the
like-
hotness of the other people in the
Yeah, and I like that with Traveler specifically, you have the freedom. Like, I can become more badass, or I can do something that like learn another language. I can practice cooking. Like you get all those choices. So you advance, whether you advance in a way like D&D where you become like, oh, I become a master of hand-to-hand combat or whatever. Or if you just do stuff that deepens your character, is your choice. But I think it's still advancement. I think it's still cool.
I think one of my favorite advancement techniques that I've come across recently, although it's not new to anybody but me, because I mostly played D&D for a long time, is the PBTA advancement. I love that in most games where you fail, you get advancements, or you get XP to put towards an advancement. But a lot of the advantages you can take after you advance are mostly lateral progression. It's you get a new ability, not a better ability.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting. It lets you kind of explore the breadth of your character without necessarily making them OP or min-maxing in one avenue.
Yeah, I like being able to do more with my character as things go on.
Right.
Even if it's just like, oh, my character didn't know that, or I didn't know that my character could do this skill before. But now
See,
they can do it.
I think most games, even if they don't have character advancement, really kind of do have character advancement.
Yeah, I agree.
Because equipment.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
in Traveler,
Oh yeah,
you
that's
start out
huge.
with a slug thrower or a holdout pistol, and
and you get battle dress.
right, and an FGMP 15, and suddenly, you're a badass, and you didn't. Your skill level is the same as it's always been, but no one's going to get in a fight with you anymore.
Right.
And also the amount of influence your character has. I mean, sometimes some games have mechanics for that, but a lot of them don't. It's like you know more people, you've helped people in the past, you can call in favors. You've made contacts and stuff, and that all influences how that's all ways that you can influence the game and you can influence the world. So, I think that's just a natural progression of the game. I don't even call it character advancement. I don't think most people think of it as it, but it kind of is.
Yeah.
In old L5R, I think this is way back to first edition. You would get honor and glory by things you just did in the game.
Right.
And glory especially has a huge impact because suddenly, oh wow, I'm in charge of a town.
Right.
Oh wow, I'm in charge of a city now. Like, I have to lead this battle. Son of a bitch. But like that is a huge change your character really based on what you're doing. It's not even XP.
It's in fourth too. There's glory and honor rules in there as well, and that goes up. And once the players realize it's a thing, they're like, "How much glory do I get for that?"
Yeah, absolutely.
And the Ikoma, I think it's Omadaisu, the bards can increase the glory.
Oh,
of
the
your
Lion
glory
Bard
games.
School.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been actually thinking about this a ton this last week. I've been writing my own game with the game system, and it's all about the characters transforming. It's not necessarily about them becoming more powerful. Shameless plug is called Virgins and Vixens, and it's about basically taking the tropes of women in folktales and making them more fleshed out, like normal, real people.
But they start out.
Yeah, you start out as the trope. Like
Right.
you get five descriptor words that you can use to roll stuff, and they're super tropey.
Yeah. Problematically tropey.
Problematically, like, and that's by design. Like,
Yeah.
people are like, I feel awkward playing this because it feels very disrespectful to women. I'm like, yes, that's the idea. You start out as a trope, and then as you play,
You fix your character.
you fix it. Yeah. So you might start out as, the prize princess who, you're beautiful and vapid and trusting and, all these things, and charming. So you might have like one word that's helpful. But as you play, you gain, they're called improvements, and once you get a certain number, you can cross out one of those useless words and add in one of your own. So you can be naive, and then after you cross it out, you can be like, oh, scrutinizing. So you get to get better as you play.
I love how you literally wrote a game to teach people about negative tropes of women
Yes.
in media.
Yes, absolutely.
That's
And it's a very good game. It's so much fun.
Yeah, so I haven't slept a lot in the last week because the deadline for me to get this game in for this folklore jam is tonight. But I'm like thinking about character advancement and what that looks like has been something I've been really thinking about, because like these descriptor words, and watching you doing the playtest the other day, some people change their descriptor words to things that were that they could utilize, that would be really helpful in the game. So they'd cross out something, and which is fine. You're absolutely allowed to do that. They'd cross out like naive, and then they'd write in,
Murdery.
Well, like
Stabby.
magical.
Okay.
So then, they've been trying and learning magic, and then they've got advancements, and they got magical. And some people do stuff that's much more character, like self-confident and things like that, which is you can be useful in certain situations too. But going from like humble to self-confident and things like that. So it's just interesting the way different people approach character advancement too.
Right.
Kind of like our conversation about Traveler a little while ago. Like some people are going to take that route that's going to make them more effective. Excuse me, more effective as a character. Well, a lot of people are going to take the route that makes the more sense as a character,
Right.
like as far as character choices. So
Por qué no los dos?
yeah, exactly.
Like,
A little
I
bit
mean,
of both.
you can do those two things aren't mutually exclusive.
Sure. Absolutely.
It just depends on where your motivation for that is coming from. If it's coming from, well, this makes sense because my character experienced this in the last thing we did. I want to train up on that. That's more story based or character based. But if it's metagamey, like, oh well, I want to get better at firearms. I didn't really fire anything in the last game, but that's fine. I'm going to do it anyway.
Although, you know what? If you let's say we're playing Traveler,
Yeah.
and you guys get in a fight somewhere, and your ship gets damaged, and you try to help out someone with damage control or something, and you like make it worse. You just totally
Yeah.
fumble. It's like that. I could totally see that character saying, "You know what? The next 3 weeks in Jump Space, I'm going to learn how to fix this ship."
No, exactly. And
Right.
that's story driven.
Well,
Yeah.
but,
Yes. That's
You know, there are tons of people that get good at shooting without being in a war, though. Mm-hmm. You know, so like, if a character, part of like the character's backstory or what the character is going through personally makes that character go, "I want to get better at guns." That still makes sense. You don't have to literally have people shoot at you in order to have enough motivation to do something.
I agree. I was using an extreme example. But yeah, I just mean like, oh, it was a diplomatic mission. Everything went great. I'm learning how to shoot guns now because I want this character to learn how to shoot guns.
Right.
Okay, well, that's fine.
Yeah, what you're talking about is more applicable to like point by games, where it's like I have a bunch of experience points in my pool, and we haven't gotten in a fight, and I haven't done anything to justify it, but I'm going to put a bunch of points in
Exactly.
guns.
For me, that's the opposite end of the spectrum of using the story to dictate character advancement.
Right.
See, but I can totally see a situation in which, like, say there's a diplomat who goes on this thing. Everything was fine. Thank goodness. What if something doesn't next time? Well, I need to make sure that I'm up on my stuff because I've been told by people that this could have gone wrong.
Right.
You know, I mean...
But the character's going to do something in the narrative
To justify it.
that.
Oh,
they're
yeah,
they're
like,
going to
I'm gonna go to a
read
range.
newspapers or
Yeah.
whatever. Right. Exactly.
You know, you have to have... Yeah, I mean, you're going to do something, but
You see,
you don't have to have,
I think
like...
that's the assumption. Is
Yeah.
that there's a lot of people that
That
are like,
won't.
I'm putting points in this. I'm putting points in
Who does it? What?
cartography. How many maps have you worked on? None.
I'm going to start by mapping this ship.
Pacing down the hallway.
10 steps to the loo.
You're being an accountant.
Yeah.
Right.
Really, who's on the $10,000 bill?
Wilson?
All of them.
People
Is it
use
Wilson?
paper money? What?
Is it Wilson?
We have a $10,000 bill?
There used to be a $10,000 banknote. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Real quickly. This is critically important.
Okay.
Eritrea, El Salvador, East Timor, Ecuador, Guinea, and Egypt are the other ones we didn't mention.
Ah, very nice.
See, if I had time to go through the Nations of the World by Jaco Warner, I could have gotten there. But, we're on a timetable.
Exactly. All right. Thank you very much there for the email, Andreas from Seth. Response to D&D classes from Ryan in Rocket City, which we looked up and that we believe that's Huntsville, Alabama.
And it's
Yes.
not what we
it's
would
in
call...
the email.
Yeah.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't read the email.
The minute you said it, I'm like, oh, that's right. That's in the email.
I usually skip the first couple of paragraphs and get into the...
Well, yeah, there are no quotation marks.
Right.
Did you guys know that arugula is called rocket elsewhere? So really, this is Arugula City.
Arugula is called Rocket?
Yeah.
Why?
Like in
That's just
another
what it's
language
called.
or something?
No, I think in England it's called rocket. It's just we're the only weirdos who say arugula.
You're talking about the plant.
Yeah, the plant. Yeah,
leafy-
it's called rocket.
That's so rocket.
I've never heard of that. So there needs to be a Team Arugula now, if there's a Team Rocket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here, but only here.
I think that's what we call vegans.
Team Arugula?
No, that was Team Kale.
Kale's punishment.
Yeah.
I've been bad. I'm going to eat kale.
I tried to grow kale out at EJ once, and it got annihilated by ants. We're the only plant that got completely covered with
See,
them.
ants
eaten.
hate
Act of
themselves.
God.
And so, yeah, it's like, well, I guess we can't Man, what a shame.
Ants have low self-esteem. That's why they deserve to eat kale.
They're crying while they eat it.
All right, we should probably read this very long email.
All right. Who would like to read this very long email
Not it.
from Ryan in Rocket City?
Do you want to split it, Kimmy?
Joey, no, I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to talk about D&D classes
I promise I
anymore.
did not ghostwrite this, even though I agree with the entire thing.
I feel like you should
I'll
definitely read
split
it
Oh,
it
then.
with you.
Okay, I can read it.
I feel like Joey has the panache to pull off a long
He's got the
email.
chops.
He's got it.
Stay interesting.
He's on vocal rest.
Oh.
He's got solos and descants to sing tomorrow. You read half of it.
I'll read half of it.
Okay.
Greetings, happy Jack Folk.
Okay.
I have been listening since season 6 or so, and haven't felt compelled to write in until the recent discussion of D&D and its classism. I come from Huntsville, Alabama, the home of D&D Beyond, and know several people who work on the product, so I admit I may have some personal bias.
What's D&D Beyond?
It's the computer.
Oh,
like-
okay.
Yeah, it's their
Okay.
website with all the stuff.
Yeah.
Got it. All right.
I could go on far too long, and probably will, but I'll try to maintain some degree of brevity. You kind of missed the
failed.
mark.
You failed.
These
okay.
points are directly primarily at Stu and Tappy's comments and criticisms from Season 24, Episode 8, some of which I feel are coming from a place of, quite possibly willful, given their feelings on D&D as a whole, ignorance of D&D 5e and its nuances.
How dare you, sir? Go ahead.
I
Go
do,
Bless
on.
you.
I do respect your actual clear citation of which episode you're upset.
Yeah.
about.
Right.
I appreciate that. Well
Ryan, I love you and I appreciate you. Note the first, regarding the notion that you should be able to play a weird, non-traditional character at first level. On a basic level, you can. You want to be a persuasive barbarian. I can read.
That would be a Bardian.
The Bardian.
done.
There you go.
No. It's me, and I'm a barbarian. Thank you.
There it
Barbarian.
Yes, thank you. This is my life class.
Simply bump up that charisma and select an appropriate talky background, such as charlatan, entertainer, or noble for training in some social skills. If those options don't really fit your character concept, then make a background of your own as laid out in the player's handbook. There's a surprising amount of potential for subversion simply through your choice of background, and it's one of my favorite aspects of the system.
Oh man, staying quiet throughout this entire thing is going to be so hard.
Drink your juice, Shelby.
Do it.
As for playing a more developed character, such as a barbarian warlock described by Tappy, then you've already found the appropriate solution. Beginning play at a higher level than first. The player's handbook has some notes in regards to the meaning of character level. Starting off at first level marks your character's entry into the adventuring life. You should not be able to play a character with that much nuance at first level, because that is simply not what first level means in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. At level 1, you are not a Jedi Knight. You are a farm boy who has lost his family and chosen to leave home with a strange old hermit from the neighboring dune, knowing next to nothing about his strange religion or how to use your father's old laser sword. At level 1, you aren't the newest member of the Avengers. You're a high school boy who doesn't yet understand what's happening to his body after that odd spider bit him yesterday. 5e specifically breaks the game down into 4 separate tiers of play, noting that characters don't really come into their own until the second tier beginning at level 5, the same level as Tappy's Barbarian. Do you want to play a character who has
Weird.
Do you
I
want
wonder
to
how
play,
I got there.
Do you want to play a character who has to come to understand and use their abilities in fun and unique ways? Don't start the game at first level. I know that my own gaming groups rarely do, and somewhere from 3 to 5 is a good starting point if you want to begin to play as a proper hero. I agree 110%.
I don't think. Do we say anything like that?
Point the second.
No, I don't remember.
Point the second. On playing a face character who isn't a bard and doesn't use spells. Is there a specific class for this? No. Can you still make this type of character? Yes. The Inquisitive and Mastermind subclasses of the Rogue are particularly good fits for this type of character, giving additional non-attack options in combat, and coupled with an appropriate background, providing training in potentially every social skill in the game, and additional features such as access to a network of contacts in any city you might happen to visit. There's a reason they aren't just called thieves anymore. There are even some fighter subclasses that could work for you, such as Battle Master or the Purple Dragon Knight. The former gives access to maneuvers such as Rally, Maneuvering Attack, and Commander Strike that allow you to act more as a charismatic leader than a frontline warrior.
I'm sorry. What is a purple dragon knight?
It's part of the... It's part of the mythos of D&D. I'm not familiar with them in 5e, but in 3.5 they were a pretty high up there percentage
I don't want to
class.
see its breath attack.
I just like purple, Ola?
Oh, it's a thing.
Keep going. No, no.
The latter gives you some capacity to heal your comrades, as well as training in persuasion and a double proficiency bonus for any check you make that utilizes persuasion. Thought the third on subverting tropes in general. This is more of a personal preference, but I honestly find that searching for interesting rules combinations in a restricted system is much more engaging and satisfying in terms of building unusual characters or playing against type. If a system gives me complete freedom, that's great. However, I don't nearly get as much satisfaction as I do when I just find the right combination of subclasses and spells to build a wizard with the potential to rock an armor class of 21 while making the same number of melee attacks per round as the fighter, and still chucking around those flashy fireballs and lightning bolts to boot. Next to a proper blade singer, Gandalf is a chump. The fact that archetypes such as the squishy wizard exists are largely enforced by the rules, making the epiphany of finding just the right spell, race, or feat combination to buck those trends that make much more rewarding. Yeah, there you go. And those moments when you reveal your character's full potential at the table often become lasting game night memories. Anyway, sorry for any rambling. We all tend to fumble a bit our first time, right?
Aww.
Aw.
You were very good. I like you. Come back. You're welcome to dislike the system anyways, of course. Despite my own ties to Dungeons & Dragons, it isn't unusual my first game of choice, but I would still hate for a newcomer to the hobby to take an idea to heart that fundamentally comes from a place of ignorance. Thanks for all that you do for the hobby and for the people in it who might otherwise struggle to be heard over the din of old white fat beards.
Tappy, you're an old white fat beard. Congratulations.
Yay!
P.S. Drink. P.P.S. Also remember that in most aspects of life, other than alcohol, of course, moderation is key. Game the system and build the world's finest murdermancer if you want, but don't forget to share the spotlight. Sometimes that haste spell you prepared is better spent on the paladin besides you, who just ate a critical hit from a death knight, so he can savor the pleasure of smiting the undead bastard from full HP to a smoking crater in a single turn. Your buddy will never forget the moment, and you'll have your toys back after the next extended rest anyway. Cheers.
So,
Well, he's got a point about the backgrounds, and that's kind of what I mean. And there are backgrounds in the book where when you read through them and say, okay, this would be a good background for a fighter. This would be a good background for a cleric, obviously. But there's nothing saying that you can't not take those. It's absolutely right.
now, one of the things, though, about the backgrounds is they oh my god, can you put that away? I'm very distractible.
I know.
You know how ADHD I am?
I know, I do. Sorry, I'm waving a shade fan at Tappy.
You want me to put it in my desk drawer?
No.
Okay.
You can't pull that move on me. I own that move.
Like, the backgrounds give you, like, flavor of your character and stuff, and that's one thing that we talked about
And skills.
is flavor and skill, right? But when you're talking about D&D, specifically, the game is Dungeons and Dragons. It's about going in at the very end of the day. It's about going into dungeons and slaying dragons. Yes,
It's killing stuff. Killing things and taking their stuff is how it's
is
been
the
described.
basic way. Yes, you can do other things with it.
Right.
You can
It
do
is
other
the
things with
origin
but
of
that
it.
is
It is
the
the
origin
origin
of it.
of
That is
it.
what you do. If
and
you look
certainly what the rule set
Yeah.
reinforces.
If you look at the skills that you get, if you look at the powers you get as you increase, you get things like rally, maneuvering, attack, and commander strike. You're not getting like hang out with your buddies or a special power to do better banking or things like that. Like these are specifically for going into battle, right? All classes go into battle,
Yes.
right?
And that's what the game's about.
That's what the game's
It's
about.
Not, that's why, I mean, you can take GURPS and make an accountant, a damn good accountant who can't do anything but accounting. You can totally make that character in that game.
Right.
Right.
If you want to run a game about accounting.
Well, but you can make one of those and play it in a battle game and do nothing. Whereas D&D, all of the characters can do battle.
Right.
Right. That's one of the
They're
good things about
adventurers.
it.
They're going on an adventure.
Right.
They are adventurers. So, like, your background gives you flavor to your adventure. But how you adventure, what you do while you're adventuring, has to do with your class. Right? Like, if you're a paladin, you're healing people. If you're a thief, you are not healing people with your thief powers. Right? So, when you're talking about how characters play, we're talking about classes. We're not talking about backgrounds.
But
Backgrounds give you skills and those are things you can use. But the thief, there's no background for a thief to be able to do a paladin heal.
Right, but I
No.
think I
So
think you can't
that's-
separate the two.
No,
because-
but that's what when I'm talking
you can
about.
play a paladin with a charlatan background.
Yes, you can absolutely do that. But if you're not playing a paladin, a background won't give you paladin powers, right? A background won't modify like
That's
the
not
class
what
you're
backgrounds are
doing.
for. That's what the class is for.
I know. So
Okay.
so that is what I'm establishing here. Is
Okay.
backgrounds don't change your class, don't give you things outside of your class. They are
Except
like
possibly skills.
they do
Except
give you
they give you-
skills.
yeah.
They do.
Skills,
Yes. But-
tools.
skills and tools and stuff like that are not your. As you progress, the powers you get are much more than that. They right because getting a skill gives you your proficiency bonus to doing that thing.
Right, and your proficiency bonus goes up as you level.
Right. So, like, you get a couple skills, right, and those can be significant, but not as significant as your class. Your class is very significant for your character and what your character can do in the game. Yes?
It would again depend on what your character you're building. If you're building
No,
a
no,
rogue,
no.
your skills are just as important as what's happening on the battlefield.
But that's built into the character still. You have more skills than other people, right?
No, actually, you don't. You get almost the same amount of skills. You might have one or two more.
Well, that's significant when you're only getting like, 2 to 4. So we're still talking about like basically what I'm trying to establish here is the idea that classes are extremely significant, whereas other things that modify them slightly.
It is a centrally defining attribute of the character
Right.
is their class.
Sure.
I
Right.
don't think anyone would.
But I still
It's the
think
same-
the
this-
background is too.
No, it doesn't. I would absolutely say it definitely gives flavor to a class, but it is not a different meat.
There are only two places you gain skills in 5e. One of them is your race. No, one of them is your class, and one of them is
Your background.
your background.
Yeah, unless you are like a half elf or something, because half elves give you 2 extra skills.
Yes.
Oh yeah, ignorance. So, same thing with your attributes. You can establish whatever fuck attributes you want to, but your
Right.
class determines what you need to have high ones in.
Yeah.
Right? If you absolutely can, if you want to, make a wizard with a low intelligence. Fuck yeah, you can. It's gonna suck.
make a shitty
Yeah,
wizard.
you're gonna be a
Right.
shitty wizard. But so like in this first thing where it's talking about you can make a weird thing, yeah, you can totally screw yourself over. Or you can make a wizard that's a charlatan wizard. Cool, that definitely changes how you roleplay the character. But it
And what they're able to do, though.
with a couple skills.
Yeah, but
It's
that
not
doesn't.
nearly as-
It's not nearly as much being able to
It's-
cast a 9th level
It,
spell.
it may not be as significant, but in certain situations in a game, that can be significant. If he has a charlatan background and suddenly your wizard can break into places,
Okay.
that's going to be a very different game than
I'm,
otherwise.
what I'm hearing is an edge case compared to what you're going to be doing all the time in a game based on battle.
Well, I guess because my roleplay experiences with D&D, for the most part, especially the last few years, haven't been 100% about battle.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. We'd have to take a survey to really know how people play it. But
Yeah, but
I would bet that Abria's game here, where they spent more time talking their way out of fights than actually
Than
fighting
ever,
something,
yeah.
is probably the exception.
I would agree.
I would
right,
guess.
but I didn't play that game. I'm talking about the 2 games you ran. I'm talking about the game.
Yeah, but I don't.
Right, and I'm talking
I
about the
hate-
game Jason
I
ran.
hate D&D combat.
Right, but a lot of people do.
When you
But-
play with a GM who hates the game he's running,
No.
you're not going to see much of the things that make that game what it is.
Right, but I'm saying that I think yes, I think a lot of people do combats. I think those skills, though, depending on what they are from the background, can really change the course of things.
I mean, I think it's safe to say that most of those skills are the mechanics that are going to take place outside of combat primarily.
Absolutely.
but they can still have a big influence on how the game goes.
Absolutely, yes, sure.
So-
Narratively, absolutely.
If you're talking
No
about
disagreement.
like Tappy, you're 100% right. If you're talking about their effectiveness in combat, and if that is your definition of D&D, which it is for a lot of people, then that's acceptable, and that's right.
You got to remember, he started with the premise of this game primarily is about combat.
Right.
And if you accept that assumption, or if you just give that assumption, then yes, your class is more important than anything else.
Sure.
When you're in combat,
Yeah.
And I would propose that is how this game is most often played.
Yes.
You can, like you said, make it so that having more skills is more important than what your class actually does. You can do that, but I don't think that that is how this game is typically played. It is typically played as adventures, going on adventures, slaying dragons in dungeons.
Right.
Okay.
I do
Okay,
think.
so-
Yeah. Go ahead.
No,
Well, I was going to move on to the next thing.
no, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, I think the trend is slowly pulling away from that, though. I think if you'd, especially when we started this podcast 10 years ago, if you'd done a survey of people playing D&D, then 100% I'd be like, yeah, I think combat's the thing that it takes up probably 90% of gameplay. I think as other games are starting to come into vogue, I think people are starting to pull away from that more. I think as people are seeing, like we talked about on a recent show, actual plays and their effect on the hobby, I think as people are seeing more role-playing happening, I don't think it's ever going to like take out combat from D&D. That's not the purpose of D&D. But I do think we are getting more situations where those background skills can be kind of game changers and really change the course of things as people are trying more of the role play part of D&D. I wouldn't say half because it's not even half, but a big portion.
I think the 5th edition, the changes that were made in 5th edition, reinforced
Yeah.
that direction. Although they've got a long way to go
Yeah.
to become a real narrative
Sure.
game.
Yeah.
But
I mean, how much time in the book is based on classes and combat as
Oh, yeah.
compared to
100%.
backgrounds?
oh yeah,
yeah. I'm not saying
100%,
it's
you're
not.
100% right.
I'm not saying it's not the most significant part, especially when you're talking about straight effectiveness in combat. But I do think that there is a point to, as the hobby is slightly changing, as the focus of the hobby is changing, even with D&D, like the backgrounds, even those little skills that may not be as big as like the paladin with their awesome heals, like the paladin with their charlatan background might be able to
So,
do some crazy stuff
Hold
that
on.
they wouldn't
So-
be able to do otherwise.
so the defense of classes is that classes don't matter.
No.
So classes do matter.
I'm talking about your points a second ago that backgrounds don't matter.
No, I'm not saying that. I never said backgrounds don't matter.
Okay.
I said they don't
Don't
matter,
matter as much.
nearly as much.
Okay.
They absolutely matter for how you play a game, or how you play your character, and like the kind of stuff you can do like outside of combat.
Okay.
But when it comes to D&D, again, like either classes matter a lot for your character or they don't. And so I think that they do matter a lot. And that's why I get frustrated in playing a class system that really rewards you for playing the type. And that's kind of what my gripe about it is all about. Would you agree?
And building your character a specific way depending on the class that you've chosen.
Exactly.
Because there are I think there's probably quite a few people who think that there is a wrong way to build a fighter.
I agree, and I've played in those games. And actually, what kind of turned me off from D&D for a long time was I was in a game of 3.5 with some friends that I played with for years, and I realized when we moved into 3.5 and after playing with them for a while that I needed to learn how to min-max or my characters were not going to survive.
Right.
Because they were spending their time figuring things out. Oh, well, if I take this weird race and I multi-class 3 times, take this prestige class and use this weapon, and then I'm going to be the most optimal. And that wasn't my kind of D&D. It was their D&D, not my kind of D&D.
Sure.
So yes, there is a thing where you want to optimize your character to the max, and that is how some people play the game.
Yeah.
I think, like Kimmy saying, that's becoming less and less frequent, and I think that things like backgrounds is really allowing people to explore different aspects of the game other than just how can I make my character the most vamp character.
Right.
So I want to move on to that was one paragraph.
Yes.
Right.
So the next one is we start talking about like starting out at 5th level or higher. And it's like, well, yeah, that's what we talked about.
I think we mentioned that.
starting
I don't
starting
remember.
higher level would be great. But one of the reasons why I want to make something like a barbarian warlock is that the idea that barbarians are a defined thing that everybody knows what it is, as opposed to people thinking they're a barbarian, or like
I don't know what you mean.
I feel it's
like kind of like Dor, where Dor is like,
okay.
I'm a cleric because I can do a magic-y thing and I believe in this god. No, you're not a cleric.
Right.
Mechanically, but in the game, believes he's a cleric. Everybody believes he's a cleric. So that I find interesting. But like starting out first level with like a cleric sounded boring.
Right.
And so starting at 5th level, we talked about
I think we may have mentioned.
You know?
I think I ran a game where we started at 3rd, or someone ran a game in our circle starting at 3rd, or was it you that ran?
I think so.
Yeah,
So a 4th edition, and we started at 3rd level or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
If I'm ever playing a game in D&D and we're starting at first level, we're going to have a talk.
Right.
There's no reason to start at first level.
No.
So
Go out and kill rats.
I mean, that's kind of like my point is why does it exist?
Because it exists
Like-
because some people like having that long progression. Some people like having their character from the ground level to really understand how their character is going to work.
And it's great for a new GM.
A
Sometimes
lot
I want
fewer
them to go
rules
kill
have
rats,
deal
get my
with.
feet wet,
Right.
and figure out what my setting is and who these people
Yeah,
are.
the first level is kind of like learning mode.
Yeah.
It's the tutorial.
Exactly. I mean, in most MMOs, you start at level 1 of the tutorial, and by the time you're out of the tutorial, level 3 or 5.
Yeah.
Right.
After you kill a bunch of rats in the
Right.
base game.
Yeah, but that's fine, because
Yeah.
you're figuring out how the game works.
Like that is not interesting to me at all to
Now,
do anything below.
Your idea for a barbarian warlock who thinks he's a cleric, in my head, just plotting the character based on what I know about D&D 5e, why not do a warlock with a Book of Shadows pact with the background of hermit who thinks his pact is with the god?
Because there's a different pack and take in the something or another book to everything where you actually can heal people. And then as a barbarian, then you can actually, with a warlock, get, when you kill, no, that's a different one. You can get extra, like, temporary HP on you, so you can run into, like, combat, go blah, 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 and be healing people with that because it's all crazy barbarian nonsense.
Okay, so if you start at level 1, though, and you start with the warlock, and then want to multi-class into that barbarian so you can then couple them together, how is that not an option for you?
Because either I have to wait a long-ass time to do that, or there has to be the caveat that we are not starting at first level.
Well, you're also waiting a
And-
long ass time to do that because a lot of characters who aren't going to multi-class can't necessarily do that. So you have to be on the same power level.
So, okay.
Well, no. Of course we're going to be the same level. All the characters are going to be the same level. So if we all start at first level, I don't get to play the character that I want to play and then I have to wait however many sessions until I get to play
Well,
that.
technically neither does the fighter who at that point can only swing his sword every round.
There's not enough alcohol in the world for this conversation.
Completely not interested in playing that either.
But someone else at your table might be.
Okay, so the thing is, like...
I can go to a different table.
So the complaint is, and the basic problem is, you can't make an interesting, weird, less than peak design character who's still just as effective as a peak character.
Yeah.
But
I think that you hit the nail on the head there.
But isn't that like kind of like real life?
No.
Yeah, no, but
I think
listen,
you can totally be a weirdo and be totally successful in ways that people don't
you
expect.
can, but not in ways that people don't expect. But like, if I'm rolling up a character who okay, we're playing the game of real life here, and I'm like,
Whoa,
okay,
this is dangerous.
it's
Boy,
gonna-
this is all right.
And I decide,
strap in, buckos.
I decide I want to make a basketball player, a professional basketball player, but I decide to make myself me, who's a 5'8" white girl. Like, I'm not gonna, like, no matter what, I'm not gonna be as successful as other people at basketball because I'm shorter than they are, because I don't have running abilities, because running is awful.
What does that have to do? That's fine. Like, if
Right.
you're a basketball player is like a class, and if you can't do that
Right.
because of how
So,
your character's made and do other things as well, that's cool. That's fine.
Right,
Like,
but
what's the matter with that? There's
There's
not saying you
nothing.
can't
That's
do
my
that.
point. There's no problem with that. But because I've made myself a weirdo who's not the peak thing for my class,
You're a
which is-
shitty basketball
I'm
player.
a bad basketball player. So as you're saying, like, I want to make, I want to be able to make this weirdo.
You're kind of making his point for him right now.
No.
Yeah, you kind of are.
If you want to make a weirdo, you're not going to be a.
I'm saying that's like real life. If you make suboptimal like builds, you're going to be suboptimal, and that's realistic. Like, you shouldn't expect to make a suboptimal build and be just as effective as someone who makes like the perfect build.
So what you're saying is there's only one way to be like a professional athlete? or be a professional basketball player.
Okay, well, professional athlete is different than professional basketball player because athlete has a much broader range.
But
Yeah, those are two
here's the
different
thing:
things.
Golf.
you can make
Bowling.
You can make
Curling.
curling. Yeah.
No, but okay.
Like right now, what you're doing is you're choosing a very specific thing that has a very specific goal. Yes, if I wanted to make a character who is a basketball player, and I wanted to make the best basketball player I possibly could,
Yeah.
there'd be a specific way I have to do that.
Right.
And I don't want to do that. Because I don't want to play
Great.
a basketball player.
That's great, then-
I want to play something weird, not a basketball player. Because a basketball player isn't a weird thing.
Right, but you can do that in D&D. That's what I'm saying. Is you make I just said that the whole problem is that you make a suboptimal build, but you want them to be as you want them to be as effective as an optimal thing.
That is not what I'm saying at all. It has nothing to do with optimization whatsoever.
Didn't
it
I
has
just
to do
say that a minute ago and you said that was right?
No. It has nothing to do with being optimal. It has to do
As
with
effective.
play style.
Right.
The type of style that I can play. If I only have barbarian powers,
Oh, let
I
me
can
go-
only do barbarian things.
An analogy. What Tappy's saying is, okay, everyone is making basketball players, right?
Right.
And the game is a basketball game. So
Yes.
everyone's building their characters to play in the basketball game.
Right.
Tappy wants to build football player,
Yeah.
but he's still got to play in a basketball game.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So he'd be a great football player, but the way that the game is played,
Right.
it's basketball.
Right, but he chose to make a football
Why not
player.
what I'm saying?
save that character concept for when you're playing a football game?
Right, like he knows that the
Oh,
point
you
of the
could.
game. Like you're playing a basketball game. So if you choose to make the football player, like you're making those choices. You can make a football player. But you shouldn't expect to be like, oh, I'm going to sit down and keep up with the basketball
I think
player.
this has gotten away from me a little bit. Because
More wine will help.
more wine will help.
Here's
Like,
hoping.
later on, with multi-classing and stuff, I can get the character I want,
Right.
who can be super fucking optimal. Like, the build that I was really looking at for the Barbarian Warlock has an AC of 22 and can cast a spell to make people have disadvantage while attacking.
Okay.
So, I can be like a cool tank, but a different kind of tank than a fighter or a paladin.
Sure.
I can move really fast. I got that unarmed movement, or I can choose to make a reckless attack, which would drop it from people having disadvantage for attacking me to just regular, while I get advantage attacking them. So there's a lot of like movement and play and stuff like that. It's really like a fun, interesting character. I just can't do that within like at first level, and I really have to massage that shit to make it work within a class system. And I think it would be great if people could make interesting choices with their character for how you move within that realm of D&D that is often played called combat.
Right.
That your class is really kind of set for how you're going to play that.
So you want to be able to do all those things you said at level 1.
No.
All right.
No.
Let's just move on to the next paragraph.
Not at all. See,
don't
that's
think-
the thing. Like, people keep thinking, oh, I want to be more powerful. It has nothing to be more powerful. It is I want to do interesting, neat things that I've come up with.
And you can, it's just going to take some advancement.
I think we're just going to keep going
Yeah,
in circles
you're
with
right,
this.
you're right,
Like
you're
we
right.
haven't resolved. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of like what he says here for like, at the end is like, oh, I can build this really cool thing that can do really weird stuff. Yes, you can do that, and that's awesome. I just wish you could do that at character creation. And
That
that's the
was
problem with...
Very succinct. I liked that, Tappy. Thank you.
All right. 10-year murder hobo from McWorm.
All right,
or McVern.
McVern, I am 15 school days from the end of the school year. I will read about the 10-year-old murder hobos. Greetings, fair jackers. I've been listening to your podcast for possibly a couple of years. This is the first time I've emailed.
Possibly.
Yay, thank you. Possibly a couple of years. It's hard to keep track with all the alcohol.
He's in a ship that's approaching the speed of light, so he doesn't quite remember how long it's been.
Yeah.
Or how long it has been for us.
All right. After putting RPGs on pause for several years, I started running games for my two children.
Excellent.
7 and 10. This is a lot of fun, but the age difference, yes, and the limited number of players was somewhat limiting. More recently, I've started running a game for a small group of 10-year-olds, including my oldest son. I've never previously GM'd. My experience as a player is limited entirely to D&D. I've been running Fate games with my kids for a couple years. For the group, I'm running a pretty simple pirate-themed adventure using Fate with a heavy dose of SOTC. Aside from my son, none of the kids have ever played a tabletop RPG. We have so far done 2 sessions, 2 very, very positive reviews. It's fun, and the kids report they're having a lot of fun, but there's been a persistent and, to me, quite unexpected problem that I'd like your advice on. 10-year-olds are going to kill things. That's my advice to you. Okay. Sorry. My pirate adventure takes place on an island, and after a bit of deliberation, I figured I'd start the first session with the party arriving by boat to a nearby port city where they could get their bearings and do a little bit of low-stakes role-play before finding the location of the island and making their way there. What could go wrong? Well, upon getting off the boat in town, one of the kids decided that a way to discover the location of their objective, would be to pry open random crates and barrels that were sitting on the dock. I had local law enforcement come over and tell them to knock it off. And, over the objections of the other characters, he had his character attack the local law enforcement. Yeah. I'm not at all sure.
That's a 10-year-old playing a role-playing game.
Also, maybe a 15-year-old playing a role-playing game.
Or some 20-year-olds.
This kid's name is Edgar, right? Yeah.
And some 50-year-olds.
Edgar. All right. I'm not at all sure I handled this first incident correctly. The situation escalated when it became clear the party was going to have to fight the entire island or commandeer a ship and flee, and I asked them how they wanted the scene to resolve. There was an overwhelming consensus that they'd like to find some sort of peaceful resolution, so I talked it through with them. It wasn't terribly convincing. In the fighting, a fire broke out, and while the party pitched in to save the rest of the town to fight the fire, they generated enough goodwill to defuse the situation. I didn't love it, but let's move on, and the kids seemed to buy it. The rest of the session passed without significant incidents, but this unprompted fight burned up something like half of our playtime. It bugged me, but all the kids said they'd had a great time, so I didn't figure it was that big a deal. Probably the kid was just getting used to role-playing and wanted to try out combat, right? I had plenty of time to prep for the next session, and since very little in-game time had passed since the incident on the dock, I figured I would have a law enforcement response be part of the action for the second session. The sheriff would bring them all to his office and dress them down. He was going to be keeping a close eye on them, and there'd better be no more funny business. This would provide a bit of drama and an opportunity to role-play, and some measure of consequences for the party's actions. Oh. Yeah. In game, the second session opener on the end.
He sent him to the principal's office.
Yeah.
Yes.
But they're in a game where they have weapons.
Yes.
and haven't grown their souls yet.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, man. I prompted them to figure out arrangements for spending the night. They chose a tavern near the docks. And then suggested they work out the course of action for the next day. And after they deliberated for a few minutes, I interrupted them with the sheriff's men knocking on the doors bright and early the next morning, demanding they come speak with the sheriff. Well, that same kid who derailed the first session had his character attack the sheriff's men. This time, I'd satted them out. And I had enough of them on the scene that the fight did not go well at all for him, and in very little time his character was sitting in a cell in the town jail. And in the next cell was a crusty old pirate who had vital information, and this old pirate wanted to talk. It had all worked out, except the kid insisted that his character would do nothing but sit in his cell, and he wouldn't talk to the pirate, and he rebuffed repeated efforts to be engaged in gameplay.
Well, of course, he's a 10-year-old.
I'm shocked he didn't try to stab the pirate.
Yeah. He was put in timeout.
Right, exactly.
He's like all petulant and mad.
I had a kid, like today, because we're 15 days from the end of school, literally sit in the back of my class with his arm folded like this today, staring at me because I benched him at recess. So for 5 hours after recess, I get this with his little face, just glaring at me. I even like we'd gotten past it, and like I'm like the nice teacher. We were doing singing today and all these things. Singing like this with his face scrunched up, very angry that I took away his playtime at recess, even though he got lunchtime. It's very strange. They can hold on to things.
You probably can't do that. But when my kids are being like really being shitty, like really being shits, I'd get up my phone and I start videotaping.
I'm not allowed to do it.
I figured you probably aren't. That ends it right there. Right. I get that's when they start coming after me with fists. But like whatever tantrum or whatever thing that they were throwing, as
Yeah.
soon as I've got a video camera on them, they're like,
Right. Suddenly very reasonable.
I could probably pretend to video
Yeah.
clip it. I'm taking this video for your mom so you can see your face right now. That would not be. No, I don't want to do that.
we,
That's bad.
we used to call that mad dogging back in the day.
Mad dog.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did that to get a jury duty.
Oh yeah? You're just mad dogging?
You have a scary face.
You just
when
pick
do
one of the
that.
lawyers and you just
All right.
whole time.
It looks to me like you're just holding your breath until you turn purple.
Yeah, just clarifying for the chat, when I say I benched him at recess, it is not bench pressing. That's different. I do that too, but not with students.
Yeah, it's more like
Not heavy enough.
Yeah, they're not. It takes like 2 or 3 on
yeah.
the bar.
You can curl them maybe.
Yeah, here you go. All right, guys. You were talking during class. Okay. Sorry, we'll
They're
continue.
a pair of dumbbells.
All right, so he wouldn't talk with the pirate, and so yeah, he refused. So the rest of the kids reacted to this with a fair bit of exasperation, but they did spend the entire session attempting to spring his character from jail.
That's very nice of them.
So nice. But by the end of it, they had attacked the sheriff's men multiple times, and are all essentially on the lam. I'm really not at all sure how to salvage this scenario, or if it's even possible. I should probably also add that this kid is pretty disruptive out of games as well. He acts out physically in a variety of ways. He monopolizes game time, or tries to, with lengthy, irrelevant rants. He makes himself disagreeable in a number of ways. I do believe that he attacks things only when is the only way he's interacted with anything in game. This is stark contrast to all the other kids I've played with so far, who are clever, engaged, inventive, and prepared to roleplay. It has been quite amazing how awesome these kids are. At your recommendation, I've been recording my sessions, and on review, it's pretty clear that the other kids at the table object to these in-game disruptions as much as I do. It's definitely making sessions less enjoyable for me. I feel that something has to be done. Can you recommend a way forward? There's plenty of ink spilled on how to handle problem players, but none of it seems to be especially relevant to 10-year-olds. Have any of you had to deal with a situation like this? No, I've never dealt with problem 10-year-olds.
Just
No.
ghost him.
Ghost him. Move and don't tell him where your new house is.
Is he one of this guy's kids?
No,
I thought he was-
No, I
a
don't
friend.
think so.
Yeah,
Oh,
then,
as a friend,
no,
okay.
then just duct
Yeah.
tape him to the ceiling.
Don't
Get the parents' consent first.
Yeah.
Do that.
Are there special considerations to keep in mind?
He may have an adhesive allergy.
Yeah. Also, in your
You never
experience,
wear long sleeve shirts. Never good.
also in your experience, is the murder hobo tendency just ingrained? I thought it was learned behavior shaped by game mechanics and RPG culture. I was absolutely not expecting
No.
it to show up in my kids' game.
No.
Thanks, McWorm.
It is not D&D's fault that people are murder hobos.
No.
No.
I have run a game for my stepson when he was 10. We actually played Rifts.
Wow.
And so he was playing this broken character because he's a 10-year-old. He wants to kill shit.
Right.
And went around just having like a fun time kicking the shit out of every living thing that he came across in the multiverse.
You should have made a glitter
awesome.
boy.
Oh no, he kicked the ever living shit out of the glitter boy.
Oh, no kidding.
Oh yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I think it was a machine person, had something like 1,200 MDC just by himself and could heal.
Oh, excellent.
And other crazy bullshit. It was insane.
My question is, for this guy, and I don't think he really says it in the email, is have there been combats yet? Because if there haven't,
I don't know if he's had to plan them. It seems like this character.
well, no, but I mean, kid's playing an adventure, and he's playing, in the theater of the imagination, and he's got a sword. He wants to use it. Give him something to use it on, or he's going to use it on town guards.
And also maybe less authority figures. Like kids
Right.
have to deal with authority figures a lot,
They're bitches, man.
right?
Sorry.
And so they have to do what everybody tells them to do.
All the
Right.
All they have to do what the parents tell them to do, have to do what their teachers tell them to do. In this game, finally, they don't have to do what anybody tells them not to do.
RPGs are an empowerment fantasy.
Yeah, have them go. Have them like that's perfect. Like have them at a pirate island that doesn't have a law.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
Yeah,
They could end up becoming pirate kings.
yeah, and they might be really nice to everybody.
Yeah.
Like if
I've heard it is a glorious thing to be a pirate.
yes.
Wow.
Hooray!
Well done.
Hurrah!
Well,
for
he
the pirate
also.
king.
All right, so I'm going to use my master's degree
Okay,
a little
go.
bit now. Okay, so you really have to like think about kids have different levels of what we call emotional intelligence, and that's vastly different from kid to kid based on their experiences in life, what their home life is like. Like if some of us come from homes where we talk about feelings a lot, so we're really in touch with our feelings. Some of us have had big emotional things happen in our life, so we had to deal with emotions, even if it wasn't something we talked about. Some kids don't have serious conversations with anyone in their families. Like that's a lot of my students. Their parents like interact with them and feed them, but they never like have deeper conversations. They're like, well, what do you think of that? I have kids who show up in my class in 4th grade. They're 9 and 10. No one's ever asked them, why do you think that? No one's ever cared. And which is sad. And especially you add to that the layer of video games and online culture. So we have actually a bunch of kids nowadays who most of their interactions or most of their observation of humanity is YouTubers.
Right.
Oof.
Yeah, 100%. And so they get this very one-sided view of humanity. Like they love these YouTubers and they feel like these YouTubers are like great, but they don't really get the two-person reciprocal conversation from that. So a lot of them don't know how to have conversations like
Right.
that. So, and that's really sad, but they also eventually grow up and become adults who a lot of times don't have those skills either. And so he's probably played a ton of video games where the answer is always kill the thing.
Right.
So he's had this, been rewarded over and over again in his favorite games, probably in Fortnite, for just bashing the thing. Unless he builds things in Fortnite, they do that too, and they do the floss. But
I don't think they built things anymore. They just did the PUBG thing.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen my kids play it in a while. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's sort of going out of vogue. So that's one thing you have to take in consideration. It sounds like your son and a lot of his other friends have that high emotional intelligence, that they've had at least somebody talking and having those reciprocal conversations with them. This kid may not have that.
Right.
So he may be completely, it's like sending him into, a gunfight with nothing.
Right.
So, ready, go. Well, why aren't you shooting back? Well, I have nothing, and I don't know how to do this. So he's resorting to what he knows, which is violence. Because that's what TV and video games show him.
Right.
And there's not a ton you can do with that, because you're not going to fix his entire 10-year upbringing so far with an RPG. But RPGs do have great power to start teaching those lessons. I would start off by giving him options. You don't have to do it with everybody. But think of his journey as a little bit more of a choose-your-own-adventure book. Like, hey, the town guards show up. Do you want to talk to them? Do you want to dance with them? Do you want to buy them a drink? Don't use those are terrible examples because I can't think of anything good right now. But give them 3 options, like a multiple choice question rather than a fill in a blank space answer. So, yeah.
Instead of I'm going to use my power drill on his knee.
Yeah. Well,
That's option 4.
That's
Yeah.
option 4. Yeah.
You just squeeze lemon juice on the page to see that one. My piece of advice here, because it reminded me a bit of when I played in Mission Imbartable, the game that Kadave and Stork ran at the con last year, almost 2 years ago. We got through the entire thing without a combat. We were all playing bards. We managed to talk and lie and sneak our way through the entire encounter without a single combat.
No.
I know. This was my heaven. I was in a party of bards, and I picked the bardiest bard who ever barded. It was the best. Anyway, we had one person at the table, though, who could not let this go without stabbing something. And so they let him on his way out. He snuck back into the castle and had a little rough and tumble with the guard, and the encounter was over. My advice would be maybe when you're planning your adventures and your encounters, maybe have a contingency for, okay, 3 of the 4 players are going to want to talk to this and try to or sneak around. Give him something to stab. Just, just give him something he can handle one-on-one. He'll get a fun moment out of it. It won't disrupt the play of the other players. And then when he's done, he can join the rest of the group. That'd be my one piece of advice for that.
That sounds awesome. It's
Yeah.
here's something that is eminently killable.
Yeah.
That cannot hurt you. You're just gonna stab it in the liver. It'll fall down.
That'd be fantastic.
You'll kick it a little bit, and then
Yeah.
you can move on. And you'd be like, haha, remember when I stabbed that guy in the liver?
Right.
Yeah.
Or,
You're your sweet potato fries because you can't have regular fries.
The other thing you might want to try, since you have a group of kids, and this is not something I recommend for adults, obviously, but this is one of the things I recommend for kids playing RPGs, is group decision making. So it does take away some player agency, but I think with kids, especially when they're first learning to roleplay, I think that's okay. So basically, it's like, here are the options. All right, like we're actually going to vote on what's going to happen. And that tends to keep the party more cohesive because you don't get the situation where it sounds like the other kids are building resentment towards that kid. You need to prep it. Don't just throw it on them when suddenly like, oh, I'm about to stab the guy. Oh no, now we need to take a vote. Like, warn them ahead of time. Like, hey, like we all want to have fun. We all need to agree on what's going to happen with the story because it belongs to all of us. So when we're faced with these moments that might change things, we're going to put cards down in front of us. We're going to flip the card, yes or no, or something like that. You can do something like that. As a role player myself, I don't love that option.
Yeah,
because
that doesn't sound like fun.
it's not. Well, it can be fun, and it's a great way to teach a kid to think about other people in the party. It makes them consider their feelings. So it may be something that you do for a little while and then pull away as he's like, oh, my actions affect other people. They care about this. Because he's probably not even picking up on the fact that the rest of the group is pissed off at him.
probably not.
Yeah. So that's just another tool you can use to start just kind of widening his circle of awareness. Or you can call his parents and just say, I can't come back anymore.
What you do is give him 30 M&Ms
And that would be a
tell him
shame.
it costs
Yes.
10 M&Ms to stab somebody.
100%.
And then watch him eat the M&Ms.
Right.
And then, oh, I can't stab him.
I'm not mad at that.
Yeah, that's a good idea too. Very good.
All right. Thank you for the email there, Mick Verm. And that's it.
Yeah.
Renaissance
Yeah.
closing weekend is this weekend. Last chance to come out for the whole year and see us. We do shows at noon, 2:30, 3:30, and 5:30 on the Golden Jubilee stage.
Gotta
Rogue
watch them
Street
all.
stage.
Gotta
is.
watch them all.
Right. Gotta
Yeah,
watch them.
Gotta watch them all. Gotta watch them all.
And yeah, that's it.
And that's it. Yeah.
Oh, I can't play that anymore.
Oh yeah. And JackerCon. Don't forget JackerCon. Sign up for that and come see us at OrcCon.
Some music label bought the Russian orchestra recording of the thing that I use because I figured they're Russians. They steal shit all the time. I'm going to steal their recording. So if I play it,
Not how right to use.
Wait, so what if...
but they're Russians. They steal shit. It's like if I'm going to steal the plans to a Chinese submarine. They deserve it.
You're trying to take what I rightfully stole.
Right. So you just need to find another
So wait,
version of people playing.
I'm
it.
going to have to
Find the Estonian.
the Estonian national anthem.
No, the Estonian version of...
The
not
Russian-
Russian, but it's not the Russian national anthem. That's the Soviet national anthem.
They use the same music.
Oh, it is the same?
It's the same music.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But
So
it's-
yeah, then the Estonian version of that national
Yeah,
anthem.
I'll
But
try
how
that.
is that not public domain?
There was a
Russia.
recording of it, and some publishing company bought the rights to the recording.
Yeah,
so
the
now,
recording of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see. Oh, I see.
Yeah, they don't own the song,
Oh, I see. But the recording you
but the
use that you sing on
specific
top
recording
of.
of it.
You need to record a kazoo version.
No, melodica!
What's a melodica?
It's like
It's the
it's the keyboard
yeah.
with the
The
thing.
blow keyboard?
Yeah,
Okay.
the blow keyboard. That's amazing. No, you got to do that.
or we have access to real instruments.
Yes, but not an orchestra.
Kazoo. All right, we should go.
All right, so I can't play it. Thank you for joining us. Oh wait, you know what though? I can play other music.
Oh yeah.
yeah, I have an entire board of it.
Let's see. Oh, here we go.
Okay. So thanks. I'm Kimmy.
Thank you for joining us for season 24, episode 10 of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. My name is Stu,
I have a master's degree.
This is Kathy.
I'm Joey.
and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much, and we'll leave you with this
This
song.
song.
Yeah.
War cries rend her hills and valleys. True on true with headlong sallies. Her toll to the fight. Chiefs lie dead and chiefs lie dead and yet where first was grounded. Freedom's flags the crag, her trumpet still is sounded. There we keep her banners flying, while the pale lips of the dying echo to our shouts defying. Harlech for the right. Shall a Saxon army shake you, smite, pursue, and overtake you? Men of Harlech, God shall make you victors blow for blow. As the rivers of Erie sweep the vale with flooded fury, Claudia from her mountain eyrie thunders on the foe. Now avenging, smite as he has left no rage on history's page, in Saxon blood be written. Long his lance, but yours is longer. Strong his sword, but yours is stronger. One more stroke and there you're wronger. At your feet lies low.
The preceding program has been a presentation of the Angry Folk Media Empire.